Welcome back to another episode of Better Than I Found It, the podcast, All Things College Golf. You're listening to Mike McGraw, the men's golf coach at Baylor University, and your host today. Today's very special guest is Abilene Christian golf coach Tom Shaw. Now, of all of the coaches I've known through the years, Tom has to have one of the most unique stories. His 25 years in coaching has seen a lot of highs, but also some very challenging times, like any of us as well, including a battle with an ominous hurricane in 2005. Throughout his career, he's always exhibited class, character, and integrity, and he's truly been a paragon of persistence. In short, Tom's example for me is very inspiring. I know it will be for you too. I hope you enjoy. Okay, Better Than I Found It listeners, let's welcome Abilene Christian men's golf coach Tom Shaw to the podcast today. Tom, it's great to have you.
Thank you, Mike. Honored to be here. Really appreciate all you do for the game of college golf. Your contributions will last a long time.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, but yours will too. And that's why I'm really excited to have you on here today, because I think you have a unique history in college golf. And we're going to talk about some of those things that make it unique, but also you're just a coach at heart. You do a great job with it. And this podcast, I don't know, Mikkel could tell me what the percentage of guests have been actual college coaches, current college coaches even. So some might find it unusual that I would interview a guy I'm competing against, but the truth is we're all in this together. We're trying to help young men achieve dreams. We're trying to get them ready for life. I mean, that's what we really do, isn't it?
Right. Absolutely right.
Okay. Well, we're both getting ready to do it here pretty seriously in a spring season. So, we're just about ready to start playing tournaments here before long. And I am, and you are, and hope springs eternal every year. I mean, you're going into the spring season thinking, wow, it's coming. We're going to have a great season. I know it's going to be, you have to believe that. It doesn't always work out that way, Tom, but we're getting ready to start our spring season. You are as well. So where are you guys going to play this year? Take me through your schedule this spring.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. We're opening at Rice's tournament down in Houston in mid to late February. And then we were blessed to be invited to the Cabo Collegiate in March, which is, you talk about David and Goliath. We're going up against the best. And so that's been on the calendar for the guys for a long time. They're anxious to do it and looking forward to it. And so the rest of the spring is pretty busy too. We go to Grand Canyon. We go to the All-American in Houston, which is a great tournament too. Jonathan Dismuke does a wonderful job there. We're invited to Mississippi State. Dusty Smith, coach down there, and finish up the spring at Ohio State. And then we have our conference championship in Nevada at Boulder City. So the spring is probably no, it's not probably. It is our best spring schedule since I've been here. I maybe have overloaded us a little bit, but it's hard at a school like ours, it's hard to turn down a tournament that you're going to be playing against the best teams in the country.
So if I polled your team members right now, they would be thrilled with this schedule. They wouldn't be worried about this schedule, correct?
No, that's correct. And I'm hopeful that we're going to rise to the level of our schedule. And so there's some enthusiasm. There's some heated, spirited competition in qualifying, just to make sure they don't want to miss out on any of them.
I love that. I mean, that's ultimately what you're doing. Bear Bryant once said he always made practice, or what they were doing in Tuscaloosa, way harder than a game, because if the kid was going to quit, he wanted him doing it in practice in Tuscaloosa, not in a game. So that's it's good that you guys have that spirited qualifying going. How far along are you in the qualifying?
Oh, we're just we start a little bit later than most people, so I don't like to start qualifying until pretty close to the event, because I know that sometimes if you play good in mid-January, your game is not at that level in mid-February. So we're always trying to take the best 5 guys for every tournament. And so right now we're doing some pre-qualifying, I guess, kind of like a pre-qualifying for Q school. So variety of tests, competitions, just to see where our guys are and to make them think, hey, we've got to be at a certain level to even begin qualifying. And if we're not at that level, maybe you need some more time to get to that level, because the off season, guys treat the off season very differently. Some play a lot, practice a lot. Some take a true break. And so we've got guys to get up to speed. We need them up to speed really quickly. So the other day I did a couple of different combines, wedge combines from different distances, created my own score, and I said, guys, this is the target score. Meet it, or you have to come back next week and try it again. So I think they like having kind of a target or a standard to achieve instead of just kind of a vague random go get better. I think it's good to kind of set a target out there for them.
Yeah, and one of the things you just mentioned was you've got to take your best team to the tournament. That's your goal. That's one of the hardest lessons for young coaches to learn. It's not about who you feel the best about or who's a sweet kid or whatever. It ultimately comes down to I've got to figure out how I can get my best players. So my best player January 10th might not even be close to my best player February 10th. So you may have something there that we may have started a little too early. I don't know, but we've already started. I err on the side of, well, you might get some bad weather, and I want a full 6-round qualifying, which is what we're doing. How many rounds will you have when you eventually set the team for that first event?
Our plan is to have 6 rounds as well.
Okay.
So, and I think, you and I both know within our teams, we probably think who our best 5 is, but it needs to play out. And the guys need to know that 1 through 9, they have a chance of making a statement. And so you can't just take your favorites, as you said, and the best players in Abilene are not necessarily the best players in Cabo. So you have to put on your coaching hat and figure out who your best 5 for that particular golf course is going to be.
Bingo. And I've made the mistake of doing the other. And I should take him. No, you've got to go with in your gut feeling who the best players are. So you got to do that. Okay, let's talk about your players. I've known a lot of your players because you've had some Texas kids, and I've seen them and recruited them as well. In fact, Alex Klaus is one of the coolest kids I think I've ever met, and going to go down as one of your best student athletes you've ever had.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's unbelievable. But because of that, I get to know some of it, but there's others I don't. So tell us who you've got and where they're from.
Well, we lost a lot. Alex is one of them. He's been here for 100 years, I think.
Yeah.
So we lost 5 seniors to graduation. So we have half our team is new. But our key returners, Zane Heisel from Edmond, Oklahoma, is probably our best player all conference last year. He's just a big old beefy dude that's just a great ball striker. Logan Diamidi, who's from Argyle, Texas originally. He's been here a long time as well. Solid player. He was so clutch for us at the conference championship last year. Jamie Lewis is a sophomore from South Africa, a nice, wonderful young man, rising, getting better, improving. One of the better players coming from South Africa that I'm just thrilled with. Charlie Jackson's from Norman, Oklahoma, one of your Okie boys, and yep. He's played a big role for us. Joris Spanier from the Netherlands came in as a transfer 2 years ago, and has really provided us from some depth. The freshmen that we have, there's 4 of them. 2 are from France. Thomas Buisson, who was on the national team in France, excellent player, and his compadre Gregoire Hoyo. They're both from France, and I figured if you have Frenchmen are kind of like donkeys, you can't just have one; you have to have 2. They don't get lonely. And the other 2 freshmen are Brian Comages, who's from Lake Travis, Austin area, won the South Texas Amateur this summer, which as a high schooler, which is not common. And Carson Grigsby, who's my first ever Abilene homegrown prospect, who committed to Oklahoma when he was just a young lad, and decided, we were blessed in the end that he decided to stay at home because he liked what our school provided, and maybe being at home probably provided that too. So I think it's a great freshman class, but all the freshmen have been playing this year. So we've taken our lumps, but the guys have gotten some real good experience that we're excited about the spring.
Good group, good mixture of kids from in the state, just outside the state in Oklahoma, and certainly international. You've done a great job with that. So that's a good group. You don't know which 5 you're taking, but you're pretty sure you're going to take the 5 you think are going to shoot the lowest score, right?
That's exactly right.
Okay. All right. So a lot of my listeners are not going to know much about Tom Shaw. but I want them to find out about Tom Shaw today. And I've known you obviously for a long time. But who is your best influence, most influential person in your youth, kind of as you got into the game? Because you became quite a good player later. Who influenced that the most from the beginning?
Well, it had to be my dad, who's Tom Shaw Sr. So I'm a junior, and I didn't start really until I was 13. We moved to McKinney, Texas, and from Kansas City, and my dad took me out to the Byron Nelson tournament when it was at Preston Trail,
Mm.
and I was
Tom Watson win it? Did Tom Watson win it?
He probably won several of them. And I love the sound of metal spikes on the carpet. I thought that was my first recollection of golf. I thought that's so cool. I want to wear spikes. And so we went out there. I thought, hey, this would be a cool game to get into. My dad took me out for a couple of times, just public golf. And then I wouldn't say I was a farm kid, but I showed steers in competition. So this may be your first guy whose entree into golf revolved around a cow. But I had the grand champion steer in Kansas City, Missouri, and I sold it, which I didn't think was going to happen. I just thought you kept it forever, and then I sold it. I realized pretty soon the reality of a steer, where he ends up. I was a little bit sad for a kid, but I sold it, and I used the proceeds. I think it was $500 to buy a membership at McKinney Country Club. So I bought the membership to McKinney Country Club, and I spent pretty much every day of my life out there playing by myself with knee-high socks. Mom would drop me off, and I loved it because it was a game. I mean, I played other sports, baseball, basketball. I did all that stuff, but it was something I could do by myself, and I didn't need anybody. And I loved just the view of the ball traveling in the air, the feel, the grass. I just love that. So I wouldn't say I got better really quickly, but I put in a lot of hours and a lot of reps and became somewhat proficient and during that time.
100%. You are the first guy I've coached or interviewed that sold a cow for $500 to get a membership so he could play golf. So, and honestly, we say that a little tongue in cheek, but the truth is that was your pathway and that was your way to get a place to play every day. And I think every kid ought to be involved a little bit in the finances of his junior golf career. That doesn't mean you could afford to work enough as a 14-year-old or 15-year-old to finance your junior golf career. You couldn't. But what if you picked up the range balls one day a week, park the carts, wash the carts, fill the Coke machine, whatever it was, for a shift every week to earn the right to play free golf? I think I encourage that to parents all the time. You actually finance your own junior career right there, or at least your place to practice.
Yeah, it was. I did clean the club pool from time to time, and our range was basically one spot, and you picked up your own balls. Which, even to this day, I think there's a ton of value in that. You don't spray it; every ball means something, and I think those are great lessons.
Very good. So you go through junior golf. It's a little bit different experience, I know, than today's modern day junior golf. You were doing it in the 1980s, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So you're a lot younger than I am. I envy you, but that's okay.
Not much younger.
Yeah. Well, you got recruited to go to school at Georgia Tech to play for Puggy Blackman, and Puggy had a very successful program. Obviously, coached Stuart Sink and David Duval and some really good players there in the early 90s. But he coached you as well. Tell me about your experience there for Puggy.
Well, I think recruiting is a strong word, Mike. We moved to Atlanta, Georgia, the middle of my junior year, which is not a great time to move when you're in high school. But I went from a course, McKinney Country Club, that didn't have a single fairway bunker to Atlanta that had trees everywhere and fairway bunkers everywhere. So I had to learn a different type of game. And I played in the AJGA, which was the Atlanta Junior Golf Association that Puggy ran at the time. And I played a couple of those small fields. I won a couple. Puggy noticed me. He knew I was a good student. My grades were good. And so my recruiting trip was a sausage biscuit at Burger King on a cold winter day where the team was qualifying out at Snapfinger. And I didn't talk much. I still don't talk much. And he carried the conversation, and I met the team. They didn't know who I was. I had no junior record. I did happen to qualify for the U.S. Junior the summer before. So, I mean, I did have some skills, I guess. And I remember at the tournament dinner at the GS Junior. This is up in New York, I think. I think Tim Straub won it that year, or yeah, probably. And I was at the table, round of 8, and there was this big country boy that was just, I thought his table manners were horrible. He was just a Yahoo. And I thought, man, that dude's just a redneck. I don't want anything to do with that guy. And so I quickly missed the cut and go back home, and I'm flipping through Golf World magazine, and that country Yahoo won the tournament. It's Charlie Reimer. Not only did I underestimate his golf skills, he was about to become my teammate the next fall. So we had some really good players at Tech. I was not one of them. Puggy tried to get me to leave after 2 years. He brought me and Alan Rosen into his office and said, I think if you guys are going to play college golf, it's not going to be here. So you need to leave. And I just, again, I didn't talk much. And I just, for some reason, I still don't know what happened. I just blurted out, Puggy, there's no doubt in my mind I'm going to play here. And I kind of shocked everybody in the room, including myself. And he just stared at me like, oh, okay. Alan transferred to Rice, where he played a lot. And I stuck it out. And just because I was stubborn, I think. And I loved to practice again. That came back from my days as a junior golfer. I just kept grinding, and eventually my last 2 years made the lineup pretty consistently. But that lineup was, really strong. Charlie, Trip Eisenhower, Duval, Michael Clark, Chan Reeves, Jimmy Johnston, Briney Baird came in. They're great players, and I learned a lot, especially from David, just playing with him, just seeing how he went about his normal routine. Just the old adage, hey, if you want to become better, hang around better players. That was certainly true in my case.
Well, it actually made you a better player, because after college, you ended up playing the Korn Ferry Tour, which I think was it nationwide? What was it at the time?
It changed every year.
Yeah.
Ben Hogan Tour first year.
Yeah, Nike,
buy.com.
Yeah,
nationwide.
Okay. Well, you played more than just a couple of years. You actually played 7 years. That's a pretty long stretch to play, professional golf. You did a great job there.
Again, I was stubborn, Mike. And if you looked at my college record, you think this kid should go into banking. But I went through Q school my first year just on a whim. I remember I played with Buddy Alexander in the Porter Cup right after I graduated. I said, Buddy, should I try pro golf? And he said, how Buddy is. Hell, just give it a shot. What's the worst that could happen? So I went through Q school, and I made it to final stage, actually, my first year, which I think only Brett Quigley and Dudley Hart and me, I could be leaving somebody else, from that graduating class, made it to finals. And it was down in Greenleaf, and I was paired with Andy Franks, who was the world long drive champ at one point, and Marco Dawson. And I'm 150 pounds. They're hitting it by me 150 yards. It was so humbling. And I thought, this is not the sport for me. I'm not ready for this. But it ended up getting a conditional card on the Hogan Tour, and then, got better every year. That was my goal. Hey, I'm not going to quit until I stop getting better. So at the end of every year, I was getting better. I was improving, and got to the level where I was a reasonably decent professional golfer. But the next step after that is you got to be really, really good. And I wasn't that good.
Well, but you just said something that I try and remind guys on my team. I mean, your job is not to get upset with me because you didn't travel. Your job is not to start, I don't know, gossiping with other players because head coach doesn't think. Your job is to get better. That's your job all the time. It's your job as a high school player, as a college player, as a mini tour player, as a Korn Ferry Tour. Your job is just to keep getting better. And then you create opportunity for yourself. And you did that. I honestly didn't think you'd played this long. That's pretty impressive to have played that long. But once you did decide that it was done, you decided, I'm going to get back into coaching or get into coaching. And because the college golf world is so small, you did something that's really wise. You used a connection you had. And Puggy was no longer at Georgia Tech. He was at South Carolina. You gave him a call.
Well, it's like the Snickers commercial, life comes at you fast. Had a baby. Game was not at a great stage. You see the writing on the wall pretty quickly. I need to provide for my family. And I thought coaching was something I'd be good at. So you're right. My first call was to Puggy, and he didn't have an assistant at the time. And he said, "Hey, come on, we'll put you on. We'll pay you this. You'll have benefits, all that stuff." So I arrived in Columbia, South Carolina with young family in tow. And well, the pay was not exactly what he said, and there were no benefits. So it was a struggle financially for the family, but Puggy gave me an opportunity, and I mean, he did some other things for me as well that were life changing, and I owe him so much. So stayed there for about a year and a half, and thought, well, coaching doesn't pay very well, so I'm going back to play. So I was actually going to go back and play, and Monday qualified for a nationwide tour event in Greenville, South Carolina. And if I finish top 25, which gives you an exemption in the next tournament, if I finish top 25, I'm going to continue to play pro golf. And I bogeyed my last hole of the tournament, and that dropped me to 27th in the tournament. So I figured, okay, well, it's not meant to be. I'm going to go into coaching. So
your last Korn Ferry Tour event you played, you finished 27th, and I'm out of here.
I'm out of here. Yep.
Okay. Well, but you got hired at Tulane. That had to have been a wonderful deal. You spent several years at Tulane. So let's talk about Tulane. Wasn't traditionally a golf powerhouse, but you were going to try to make it such.
Well, yeah, and I was a young head coach, and the great thing is it gave me an opportunity to make a whole lot of mistakes and learn from that, because I learned a lot from Puggy, but until you run your own program, you just don't know how you can handle every situation. So this gave me the freedom to, there were no assistant coach really at that level, so I had freedom to goof up and learn. And at that stage, Tulane is not, they're not expecting me to win the national championship. It's, hey, recruit good kids, get good grades, graduate them, and those were the parameters. So I had a lot of freedom to do things. And New Orleans was a pretty cool place to live. Maybe not for a young family trying to raise kids, but it was really neat. And I'm always grateful for that opportunity to be a first time head coach. You never forget that, and it plays a vital role in your development as you move on through the profession.
Yes, and you obviously proved yourself to be a pretty good recruiter. So in 2002 summer, it's late in the summer, the summers as they wind down, people you're tired because you watched a lot of golf and the kids have been communicating with coaches, and it's tough. So I was at a tournament in Denton, Texas. You were there as well. And Alan Bratton, who would eventually become the golf coach at Oklahoma State, had played at Oklahoma State. He was working for Ping at the time. And so he sees me there, and I'm the assistant coach to Mike Holder and recruiting players. We already had a commitment, I think, out of, Zach Reynolds from Edmond, Casey Wittenberg, and Tyler Leon. So I really wasn't recruiting to 2003 graduates, 2003 graduates, but I was seeing some of them. And Alan Bratton and I were walking toward the parking lot at the end of the event, and he said, "Well, hey, Coach McGraw, who was the best player you saw here this week that you'd never seen before?" And I said, "Well, this kid from Arizona, Michael Thompson. He's pretty good. But he's in 2003, and we're going to be full." And we didn't have a commitment from Casey at the time, but we were definitely thinking we were going to get one. And he said, "Bingo, that's the same guy I thought about." And so Alan and I had seen the same player, but so did a coach from Tulane that week. Talk about seeing Michael Thompson.
I was on the range just like you do, but I was at the far left of the range, and sometimes I like to watch players from behind, because I can see the pivot a little bit better, and my eyes immediately were drawn to this guy, and I thought his lower body moved beautifully. It was like a tour player, and he was hitting these just rockets out there. And I had this, the younger crowd won't know what this is, but I had this candid camera moment. Like, is this being set up for me? I looked around, and nobody else was watching him. I thought, what is going on here? Is he already graduated? Is this not guy? Is this guy even in high school anymore? And so we started a conversation, and he had some other schools he was looking at, actually Baylor at the time, I think. And before you were there, and Kansas State and Maryland. And I just got on him like a bulldog, because I thought this kid is what we need. He was an Eagle Scout, good kid, great player. And I thought this could be the cornerstone of our program. We already had some, Chris Wheeler was on our team. He was a great player too, but I thought that this guy could really be the set the tone for our program moving forward. And we were so blessed to get him because he delivered.
He did deliver. He was he won 3 times, I think, playing for you.
Yeah.
He was a great player. I look back on it and I think to myself, that's a perfect example of how some kids are over recruited, but also some are under recruited. And there weren't any really huge golf powers watching this kid. Well, he ends up being the runner-up in the U.S. Amateur. He's an All-American. He's won on the tour. He's still playing professional golf on the tour today. So 20 years later. So you obviously proved you had an eye for a good player. And Alan Bratton and I did that week too. But and I believe he's still playing Ping equipment. Is that correct?
He's always been a ping guy, and he's always been one of the greatest putters I've ever been around. When he first came to college, he had this old ping that made this noise when he hit it, bing, and it was ugly. It wasn't really set for him. The ball launched probably 10 degrees when he hit it, but man, that kid could roll the ball. And once he finally got a properly fit putter in his hand, he putted even better. And he was, he's good. I can still see his swing, a little bit laid off, steepens coming down, but lower body was it's just beautiful. A tour pro move. He played a lot of sports growing up, so he was a good athlete. Just an all around complete game, but putting was clearly his strong suit.
I agree. I think he's still one of the best putters I've seen. Amazing stroke, does great. So that's really a positive thing at Tulane. I mean, when you think about it, that was one of the best under the radar gets of anybody in that class in 2003. But
yeah, thank you.
So I wanted people to hear that because that to me was impressive that you got him to go to Tulane. But the other one's not so exciting and not so fun and wasn't a very good thing. And that was Hurricane Katrina in August of, I believe, 2004. Five. Thank you, five. I actually want to bring you on again another time for a full-on talk about this, about how you shepherded kids through there, but give me an abbreviated version because with Katrina, you sort of knew they were going to do away with college golf at Tulane for the men, but you had to find your players places to go. Talk about that time.
Well, I didn't know it at the time. There was no playbook for this. Our athletic director brought us together once we saw a Category 5 moving into the Gulf. This is all new to me because we evacuated a couple of years earlier for hurricanes, but it was like, we'll come back. And that was kind of the New Orleans way. Hey, you evacuate, you come back, no big deal. Well, this one was to me, it looked pretty big. And so we met as an athletic department and said, hey, we need to go back home. So some of my guys went to Houston, some of my guys went to Dallas, blah, blah, blah. And so the hurricane hits and there's no communication. Cell phones are out. We're doing everything by email. It's a little bit like I know the dark ages didn't have email, but you felt like it. And so finally our athletic director, Rick Dixon, got together and said, hey, school is shut down for the semester. We can't even get back to New Orleans. We've got to send you athletic teams to different cities and different schools. So some of our teams were sent to College Station. Some were sent to Louisiana Tech. Some were sent to Lubbock. Men's and women's golf was sent to Dallas. We got the great end of the deal right there. And we got to Dallas and I'm basically, hey, we're already 2 weeks into the semester. I've got to get my guys into classes. So I've got to piece together whatever schedule I can. I've got to get them in dorm rooms. And the SMU campus was great for that. So they set me up a temporary office, and Jay Lohr, who was SMU coach at the time, got us a place to play and practice. And David Price at Bentry let us come out. Randy Smith at Royal Oaks let us come out. I mean, they would just open the doors for us. It was so wonderful to be able to still play and practice and get some kind of sense of normality into these kids' lives, because there was no clue what was gonna happen. So we didn't have a budget. So my first tournament was we were playing Memphis, and I called Grant Robbins and I said, Grant, I have no money. I can't stay in a hotel. We can't come to your tournament. And Grant said, hey, I'll find you housing. Just find a way up here and you can play, which is, I mean, that stuff like that happens. You realize, man, some good people in this business. We lost all of our I had just gotten this huge shipment of Bridgestone golf balls right before the hurricane, and it was sitting on the first floor of our athletic department. And sure enough, that had about 6 feet of water, and not spring water, 6 feet of water coming through there. And so once we were able to get back in the athletic department, I got everything in these big trash bags, all these golf balls, wet golf balls in a trash bag, and I'm walking across the street to my car. Both trash bags burst open, and I've got probably 1,000 golf balls bouncing down the street. There's probably still bouncing down Claiborne Avenue in New Orleans and going into drains and gutters. So I had no golf balls, I had no gloves. Called Bridgestone. I said, "Hey, listen, can you ship me a dozen balls for my team or something for this tournament?" And they, to their credit, again, good people, they duplicated the order exactly from my previous order. So I had all these golf balls. And they didn't even make me pay for it. It was just a great gesture. And so we put together a fall schedule and played some. But in December, my athletic director said, "Hey, Tom, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to bring back golf." So, which was a devastating blow. I had to deliver that to my team, and the NCAA was going to allow them a full year of eligibility back if they did not play in the spring semester. So pretty much all of our starting lineup chose to take that option. And so I went into the spring with a team of great guys, but freshmen, sophomore guys that weren't quite ready for prime time yet. And every tournament during the coaches meeting, I would stand up and talk to the coaches. "Hey, here's my starting lineup. These guys are looking for a place to play golf. So it was like I was de-recruiting my players, but trying to get them recruited by other schools. So it was a little bit of a unique situation there. My better players had already kind of arranged. I mean, Michael Thompson had tons of options.
Yeah, he visited me at Oklahoma State. Only player I've ever had that said, "I really don't need to go see campus. I just like to hit practice balls."
That's Michael for sure. So we went into the spring. By the time conference came around, we only had 4 players that could play. So that being said, we did not win conference that year, but had great kids, and it proved to me that the whole thing proved to me that, because I always tried to recruit character. These guys, I call them the Katrina 9, and I wrote a little story about it a few years back just so I could document it. Those guys had such good character. They didn't complain 1 second. They didn't worry about what was happening. They stuck together, plowed forward, made the best of a very unique situation. I love those guys.
Gosh, what a great story. Thank you for giving me that. But the sad part of the ending of all of that is you were out of a job once the year was over. You didn't have a place to go. How did the Vanderbilt experience come about? Because that was, I think, pretty good deal.
Oh, it absolutely was. The timing was great. I had a player that I recruited at Tulane who was currently at Vanderbilt, and I think that just opened the door for me. I mean, there were some great candidates for the job there, and I guess maybe I fooled them in the interview, and they decided to take a flyer on me, and we moved from New Orleans to Nashville, which was that's a pretty good trade-off. And spent some good time there. Had some great players. Really from a mess in Tulane to get immediately, not have to really worry about a job for too long. That was a blessing.
Well, one of the players you had was a guy named Luke List, who's still playing professional golf today on the tour. Was my Palmer Cup captain's pick in 2007 at the end of your first year. So he was a Palmer Cupper in your first year at Vanderbilt. And I look back on that, I think that's probably the best coaching move I ever made. He was a good guy to have on the team and finished runner-up in the USAM. He just really, really good spot there. So you coached there, I think, 5 years, 6? How many?
6 years, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Had a lot of success, had some All-Americans, got to the national championship postseason at least 3 times, I believe. Yep. But like any other coaching situation, I guess eventually they come to an end, and that did. And at 2012, you were out of a job again. How did you recover from that?
Well, yeah, nobody wants to go through that, but I thought we had some good players coming in. We had Hunter Stewart on the team, and then we had the number 1 player in the world, Matthias Schwab, coming in as a freshman. So, but again, the schools can make changes, and I'll say this: Scott Limbaugh has done a phenomenal job at Vanderbilt.
Yes, he has.
they're a monster now, which is awesome. So I tell people all the time that Vanderbilt finally got rid of their finally got a good coach to move their program forward. But so 2 years I'm part high school coach for a local high school. I am part starting my own recruiting business, and I'm part partnering up with Jim Williams and doing a little teaching for junior golf. So a great opportunity to reinvent yourself. Hey, what didn't work as a coach? What did work? Where can I get better? That was essential. So I'm not going to say I'm glad it happened, because I really enjoyed working at Vanderbilt in the SEC, but I wouldn't be, and I'm not saying I'm a great coach now, but I wouldn't be the coach I am right now without that, because it gave me the respite to kind of sit back and say, okay, what do I need to do better? What do I need to become to be a better coach and serve these kids? So that those 2 years kind of in the wilderness, you call it, I look back on that thinking that kind of sucked at the time, but man, it was a huge, important step for me.
Thank you for saying that, because honestly, getting let go at Oklahoma State was probably one of the best things that's happened in my career, because I had to reinvent myself. I got to spend that year with Jay Sewell and kind of prepare for my next coaching position. And I think I'm a better coach because of that experience. And pretty much whatever adversity comes your way in life, if you look at it the right way, it's probably going to yield some good results. And this got you a position at Abilene Christian, which honestly, I want to talk about this because I think you're unique. You're the only coach in men's Division I golf who had to shepherd a team through a hurricane, knowing that you're not going to be the coach next year. And then now at Abilene Christian, an emerging D1 program. They weren't D1 when you got there, they were emerging. So take us through that process, and then we're going to ask a bunch of questions in there. But you took the job knowing that it was emerging D1.
Yes, I had another opportunity at the same time to go to a school that was already D1 and already pretty good and would probably go to regionals. But I wanted to get back to Texas, and I like kind of putting my own stamp on a program. And so I knew we had some stuff to build, kind of like Tulane. I was given the freedom to, hey, you know D1 golf, to do it. So, but we had to improve everything. I mean, schedule, facilities, workout programs. I had to recruit better. We had to recruit on it for a Division I program, and they were a super successful Division II program. Won the national championship, top 10 every year. Some great players: Alex Carpenter, Cyril Boniel, some incredible players. But going from a big goldfish in a small bowl to a minnow in an ocean involved some serious upgrading that we needed. So that's, and I mean, we're not all the way there yet, but in 8 years we've come a long way, and now I think we're positioned to be a nice option for guys that are seeking what we have, which I think we're pretty unique, kind of like you guys are. We're a private Christian school, and not everybody wants that, but for the guys that do, they can come here and flourish and thrive.
Well, a perfect example would be Carson Grigsby. I mean, Carson committed to the University of Oklahoma early, but as he went through the process, he realized faith is the most important thing to me. I can stay at home, get a good education, play for a great coach, and have the faith part around him the whole time. So, but anyway, you mentioned facilities. Yeah, you've gone from literally, I guess, basically nothing to now you have what's called the gym. And I assume that's named after the donor who gave the lead gift, I assume. But talk about your facilities now.
Yeah, we went from our short game practice was on probably a 500 square foot green at a public course where we shared it with 3 high schools, 1 junior high, and 2 other colleges. So it was, you wore your hard hat because balls were going everywhere. But my first fundraiser, I expressed to 2 people, here's what we need. Here's my vision for the program. And so raising money, it's important to have people in the right place, but it's also important to express your vision clearly. So I told them, hey, we need our own short game facility. I don't care what it looks like. It has to be our own. So Mark Anthony, Eric Oliver stepped up big time. And so the gym, both of their fathers were named Jim Anthony and Jim Oliver, both introduced their sons to the game. So we named our short game facility the Gym, JIM. And it's a 4-acre facility with Bermuda greens, bent grass greens, pretty much anything 120 yards and in, guys can work on that. And it's really from where we used to be. I mean, and Alex Klaus was here for basically 6 years. He saw the old facility, which was not a facility, and to what we had when he left. It's night and day difference. And so it's still hard to attract all the players that we want to, but we can now get into the conversation because our facilities are, especially for a mid-major program, our facilities are top notch.
And I encourage every young coach who's getting in is spend a certain amount of your time focused on how could I improve the facilities, not just because of recruiting, but for development of players where they've got a place where they can develop. So I applaud you there. You also have a clubhouse. Talk about that clubhouse. Really nice.
It's we did the short game facility in 2018, and then we had some momentum. So we built the clubhouse and opened it up in 2020. It's the Byron Nelson Clubhouse. So Byron Nelson has been a long time Church of Christ member, and our school is founded by the Church of Christ. And Byron's brother Charles was part of our faculty. So the old days, anytime the ACU golf team would travel through Dallas Fort Worth, they would always stop off at Mr. Nelson's house and have dinner and hear stories. And he's really the father of our program because he helped endow our very first scholarship. Up until 1985, we were essentially kind of a club sport, but Byron had a huge fundraiser in Dallas with Tom Landry, Tom Watson, Lee Trevino spoke at it, and they raised about $300,000, which kind of helped start our very first scholarship. And then the program has kind of taken off from that. So I always say Byron Nelson's kind of the father of ACU golf. And so this building is committed to him. We have display cases with a lot of his memorabilia that we have, which is pretty cool to look at. The Texas Hall of Fame is actually in town doing a video on Mr. Charles Cootie, Mr. Joe Black, and they're going to stop by our building because Byron Nelson is part of their Hall of Fame. So they're going to do some video work here later today. It's an impressive building. It's not near as big as the Taj Mahal of Baylor University, but it's for our team, our size campus, and it's right across the street from campus. It is a perfect size building for us.
And it's butted up against the gym, correct? The facility.
Yes, yep, I'm looking.
So I'm going to say there's not very many Division I programs who have exactly what you have on campus. So that's impressive. But it also speaks to the commitment universities have nowadays to college golf. It's greater than it was when you were playing, way greater than it was when I was playing. So I want to applaud you on that. That's not an easy, you're doing three different things there. You're trying to get a Division I team to emerge into the level of golf. You're trying to recruit players that can help you do that. And then you're having to get some facilities to try to maybe attract other players and then develop players better. That's a big task. You handle it well. Congratulations on that, Tom. But another thing that you've done is you've been able to attract some really good, and this is through your whole career, really good assistant coaches. Talk briefly about some of your assistant coaches and where they are now, and then the ones you have now. That Mason Banger, the one you have now.
Yeah, thank you. At Tulane, I didn't have an assistant coach. It just wasn't a thing at our level back then. And so I learned on my own, which again, as I said earlier, is a good thing. I mean, I had to do everything, learn to do everything. And when I got to Vanderbilt, I hired what I thought was a outstanding young man, and he is that played at Southern Miss, was Justin Emile. Mm-hmm. And we were together for 5 years, and he's just an incredible man. He's a strong man of faith. He knows the game. He's just a soft-spoken Mississippi guy, and he's now the head coach at Rice. Has been there for a while, so that's been good. And my last year at Vanderbilt, I hired Dusty Smith, who was played at Lamar, had a good career at Lamar, and now has become a outstanding golf coach now at Mississippi State. So 2 head coaches there. When I took over at ACU, I had Brandon Wilkins on the team, and once he graduated, he stayed on as an assistant coach, and now Brandon is the associate head coach at SMU, and really taken off in his coaching career. He's done a nice job at various stops, and I think he's going to be running his own program very soon. And I've had Rob Bennett here, who was my assistant for 3 years. He went to Louisville to be the women's assistant coach, and now he's back as our very first head coach of our women's program. We're starting women's golf in the fall of 2023, and he's the very first ever women's head coach at our school. And now I currently have Mason Banger, who's originally from England and played golf at Harding University. So Harding is another kind of Church of Christ type school. So it was a natural fit for him to work here at ACU. So I feel like my assistants, whether they learn how not to do things or whether they learn how to do things, I don't know yet, but they generally move on and apply those and get some pretty good jobs, which is what you want to see. You want to groom your assistants to take over the next program and to do better than you did and to improve and help mentor and shepherd these kids along their college paths.
Well, and I think every coach will probably attract a certain type of assistant and sometimes a certain type of player. All of your assistant coaches are good people first.
Yeah.
And so you've done a great job with that, but it does speak to your faith, which I want to talk about now, because you're at a faith-based institution where you can talk about it. You can share it with your players. I am as well. And I've had several guests on this podcast that are not afraid to talk about their faith. What role does faith play in your coaching and your mentoring?
It's always played a role, but generally we're at schools where that's not encouraged or even condoned. It's HR could write you up pretty quick if they find out you're talking about Jesus or anything like that. So this school aligns with me perfectly in that you're actually required to have that impact on your kids. It's in our mission statement of the school to educate and produce Christian leaders for service throughout the world. And so, some kids say, I don't want a Christian school. It's going to affect my golf. Well, last time I checked, Pepperdine Christian School was pretty darn good at golf. Baylor's been pretty good at golf, and Liberty is pretty good at golf. So, I think for people who, whether they're Christian or not, coming here to a Christian school that allows you to be who you were designed to be. You don't have to fit into a mold or try to be somebody you're not. I think it allows you to play even better. You're not shackled by trying to conform and stuff. And I think some people have a weird idea of religion or Christian school that they have to conform to. That's absolutely not the case. We have kids on our team that they don't get into it, and we have some guys who are deeply invested in their spiritual walk. Carson Grigsby's like that, and it's wonderful to see. But we just ask all of our guys to be open, respectful, ask questions. You just never know where, if you throw enough seeds out there, they may take root, and it may not be for another 5 years down the road beyond what their college career is like. But this school allows me, we have chapel, we have team chapel every Thursday. So it gives me the opportunity to have some frank and vulnerable conversations with them. We're not end up being awkward and everything, but we have the freedom to talk about whatever we want to talk about here, and our school encourages that. It's directed from our school president, from our athletic director. That's our mission statement. I mean, we want to be good. Listen, we want to be competitive and be good and win, but we're not going to sacrifice that by dismissing what our school was founded upon.
Well, some of my best friends in coaching have won national championships and conference championships and produced All-Americans and PGA Tour players, and they're Christian. So it's like you can have both. They're not mutually exclusive. And let's talk about that. You've got this emerging D1 program. You've only been there a few years, and now all of a sudden you've got this great facility. And you guys won the WAC last year. You won the conference championship, qualified for postseason. You were coach of the year in the WAC. That had to have been just like an amazing day in your career.
We could have a podcast on the last 9 holes there, because it was just, I'm not a golf stat watcher. My assistant is, and I just kind of go by feels and vibes. And my vibe was not good the last round. But all of a sudden we went from 7 behind to 5 ahead in like 2 holes. It was nuts. But to win the conference championship with those seniors who had set the tone for our program, set the standard, established the culture, to see Alice Klaus hold the winning putt on the last hole of conference championship. I mean, I still think about that. I still get goosebumps from it. It was such a heated battle between Grand Canyon and Sam Houston, and New Mexico State was in there. It was such a fitting end for that class. And then we went to regionals, and actually played above our seeding. We had an okay first round, and in the second round we were paired with Oregon and Casey Martin. I thought, okay, we're gonna beat Oregon, and they just absolutely boat raced us. And we realized, okay, maybe we need to get a little bit better. But it was an incredible experience for our fan base. My athletic director showed up at both conference and and regionals, our donor showed up. It just gave some serious momentum to the program. But I couldn't have been happier that it happened for that class of guys who had put so much effort into it and not seen much reward. To win conference for them was incredible.
I'm glad you told that story. Every coach has defining moments and things they're going to remember, and sometimes it's just an experience with a player that where he kind of figured out something about life or that type of thing. But in this case, it was a championship ring that you guys won and advancing to the. I don't know how long it usually takes to emerging Division I teams to win a conference at the Division I level, but this has got to be one of the quickest ascensions to such a victory. So congratulations. And
thank you.
And I think it's only the beginning for you, just the way you operate your program. But all right, last thing I want to talk about today, and thank you for the hour you spent with me. The challenges of mid-majors. So the college athletics scene, or the college golf scene as well, has changed a lot in the last 4 or 5 years with the transfer portal, Alston money paying for grades, NIL, just name it, sort of how things have changed. Of all of those things, what's been the most challenging part for you? Because I think the gap has widened between an ACU and an Ohio State, or an ACU and Alabama. It's widened over the last few years as far as just the reality of what's out there. What's been the hardest thing for you?
You hopefully didn't open up Pandora's box here, but the gap is widening. And what the part that I'm concerned about is that kids who bypass us and go to a let's just use Texas, and I have total respect for Texas. They're awesome. Right. They don't come to ACU and they go to Texas, and maybe they're the 7th, 8th, 9th player. You'd like to think, in theory, they want to play college golf in tournaments. So you might get those guys on the transfer portal, or they might decide to come to other schools where they can play right away. Well, now those kids don't have any incentive now to seek tournament opportunities. They're at a facility that has a lot of great things for them, a lot of bling, a lot of money, and we're not getting kids that I know could go from being the 8th guy at Texas to in our starting lineup every single tournament. Because you and I both know that the best way of getting better is playing tournament golf. You're not going to do it by just having access to great facilities. You've got to play and get out there. And so where I thought when the transfer portal started, I thought, hey, we're gonna get some kids from big programs that want to play. And it's hard to get those kids now. A lot of it's money. A lot of it's they want to stay where they're at and just kind of be able to tell people, hey, I play for X school. And so a conference like ours, WAC, is not as exciting as saying SEC or Big 12. That's a stumbling block. But I'll tell you this, Mike, with all honesty, that's frustrating sometimes. But in the end, I'm not. I'd love to win a national championship. I'd love to do all this, but I'm going to be happy and comfortable coaching my kids that I get from our program. And if we win every tournament, great. If we lose every tournament, great. I'm going to take the 9 or 10 guys I have, coach them up to the best of my ability, mentor them, try and get them ready for life after this. That's my goal. And if I get sweating the other stuff too much, woe is me, we're mid-major, blah blah blah, I'm just wasting time doing that. We're going to try and recruit the best kids we can that are the right fit for the school. And if they want to come here and experience what we have offer, great. If they don't, great, move on. We have a hard time getting kids from the transfer portal. They're just, by the time they're on there, they're gone. And but we're gonna keep trying to do that, because we think that we offer the kid who's looking for a different experience, they're going to find it here. But I'm trying not to sweat the small stuff on the Power 5 gap and all stuff, just other than just acknowledging that it does exist and it's only getting bigger.
Okay, well, I wanted to acknowledge that it exists, because it does, but also I love the refreshing take you have on it, which is something that I thought about 25 years ago or 20 years ago, when we didn't get Hunter Mahan at Oklahoma State initially. And I was just walking around in a funk, and Mike Holder says, you better figure something out, because you're going to lose a lot more players in the future. It doesn't matter where you are. And one of the things I came up with was, I guess I get the players I'm supposed to get. I mean, so I can't worry about the ones I don't get. And so you have a healthy attitude regarding that. And every coach's job is to figure out how to take the kids who do want to be in your program and give them the best experience and prepare them for life. Tom, I don't think anybody does it better than you do it in college golf. So thank you for that perspective, and thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mike. Nice words. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, good luck this spring. I hope to see you at a regional and then Greyhawk. It should be fun.
Yeah, I know you got a good team, Mike. You have a great shot at getting there.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you again down the road.
All right. Thank you, Mike.